and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we're going to talk about the business climate on the peninsula, not just in Hampton, with the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Mike Kuhns.
Good morning, Robin. Pleasure to be here.
Great to be here. And it's time for an update because I interviewed you a while back when both you and I were kind of new.
Exactly.
So let's talk about just basically what the Chamber is and what you do.
Well, the Chamber, since we've spoken, has pivoted, if you will. Today it is pleased to report, is a sustainable organization, no debt, and very strong in its membership as well as its relevance in the community. So we have pivoted to becoming a business development chamber. There are about 4 different types of chambers. Tourism, such as Williamsburg, community development chambers such as Isle of Wight or Gloucester, that type of a chamber.
Rural, okay.
And then political action chamber like Fairfax County, and then the remaining one would be a business development chamber. And our mission is to connect business with opportunities. And so that's pretty broad, but it really makes us a facilitator, a convener, an honest broker of putting people together, businesses together, localities with businesses, all sorts of things like that. So we've done thanks to a great staff, a very small, hardworking, but great staff, we've been able to accomplish that in the last 6 years.
Well, and you work across, city and county lines, right? What is the geography
Our
that you
service
serve?
area is Newport News, Hampton, Poquoson, Lower York, and Lower James City County. In all honesty, we focus on Hampton and Newport News.
Well, that's where most of the business is. I mean, I think the counties could be growing a little bit, but Poquoson is kind of landlocked, and there's only so much commercial.
Right. And York County has a small chamber of commerce, more like a community development chamber. So we're not particularly active other than in our political advocacy for the peninsula in that general area. But we focus mostly on Hampton and Newport News.
Now, when you say political advocacy, I just want to be clear, you're talking about lobbying our legislators, doing
correct.
things that help benefit the economy of the area, as opposed to your political agenda is economic growth.
Well, it can be. Our political agenda is determined by what the business community wishes it to be. And we have a unique process here, which is very interesting and very unique in Virginia as well as across the country. We're fortunate that we put together a group of 13 lobbyists, which include lobbyists from the localities, from Dominion Power, Riverside, Centerra, all of the larger businesses, the shipyard, and they come together and help us develop the policy. They obviously are in Richmond on a day-to-day basis. They know each other, and we have this under the guidance of Susan Gaston, who is our vice chairman for public policy. And of course, Laura Bateman, who is Hampton, and also does some work for Newport News, is engaged along with Jerry Wilson from Newport News. So we develop long-term, short-term, and medium goals, but only a few, instead of the laundry list of things that sort of never get done. And I'm pleased to say that in the last 5 years, they probably have about an 85% batting record, so that's really good. And we advocate, whether it might be retail matters, might be foreign trade zones, it could be enterprise zone expansion, those types of things.
And funding for some of those initiatives
funding,
as well.
Thomas Nelson, for example.
Hugely important to the community.
The school divisions, that type of thing. We don't endorse candidates.
Right. I guess that's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
you're looking at issues.
Yeah. Other chambers around here do endorse candidates. We do not. We do have a PAC, but the PAC is really used, the Political Action Committee is really used to fund opportunities for someone such as myself to attend without using chamber dollars, but yet places us in an opportunity to make connections. So, we stay away from the partisan type things, hopefully.
Well, now let's get back to connections, because I think that's what you were saying. Your main focus is, and some people might call it networking, but you guys have become much more vibrant, much more active in terms of events. I mean, you've got giant events like State of the City, which we've had for, I think, 3 or 4 years now. 3 years
this
now.
Is the third year.
This will be the third. And a lot of chambers have done it. They've done it on the South Side for years. We never did it over here. So you've got giant 500-person events, but you have monthly networking lunches on different topics and you reach really different people.
We do. Our market is really different, and probably I can give you the statistics on events, but why we do things is really unique because our market is very unique. I have a small staff, but as I said before, they do a great job there. We have about 120 or so events a year, touching up to about 12,000 attendees.
So that's 10 a month ballpark, right? That's a lot.
Yeah. Sometimes it's loaded up in 1 month is really loaded, and it's crazy. But they do a good job. They like it, and it goes anything from State of the Cities, as you mentioned, for Newport News and Hampton, and both of them are very large events. They're an opportunity for the leadership of both communities to talk about not what's going on today, but also what the future is all about. And it's also a great way to bring the two communities together because typically the leadership from both communities attend each other's, and there's all sorts of connections made, a lot of networking, if you will. They're great events, and it's a great way to showcase what we're all about on the peninsula. So those are two great events this year because we're in an anniversary cycle here with Langley Air Force Base's 100th anniversary. We are, along with the city of Hampton, sponsoring a gala, which is on September 17th. So that'll be a big celebration for the Air Force, and we're helping support some of the 100th anniversary events for NASA next year.
Yeah, it's going to be like a continuing celebration. That's wonderful.
Kind of crazy. You know, it's pretty bad news. You got to go out and get a tux that fits now. But those are great events, great celebrations, and they hit certain populations. In addition to that, we have the normal things. We try to focus. We have senior advocacy events. We have a young professionals group in concert with the city of Hampton's EDA, a staff member from there, and as well as Newport News' EDA, and one of my staff members, they kind of lead a core leadership team for this group of young professionals. We have our pink bag lunch, which has been going on for a number of years. Anyone is invited, but it's mostly people who carry purses. And that's a great event, very topical for female professionals. And we do a lot of legislative updates with the senators and the delegates and the congressmen, military leaders, that type of thing. So it's never ending. And that's kind of the in-house staff side. That allows me, because they are so good, to get out and do my main job is government liaison, military liaison, regional, South Side, sitting on a number of boards and organizations representing the peninsula. That type of thing, so it allows me to get out of the office because I have such a professional and efficient staff, so it's pretty cool.
Well, you keep saying we have a unique business climate here.
We do.
What does that mean to you?
Well, I think we first start off with the fact that a large part of our economy, I think it varies, but say 40% is dependent on Department of Defense spending. So that in itself makes it unique.
It's a defining thing about this
And in
region.
Hampton, for example, you have Langley Air Force Base, you have NASA Langley, you have the VA Medical Center. That takes up a lot.
People forget the VA. It is huge in employment.
It is huge. And that takes up a lot of space that other localities would be using for tax generation.
I was going to mention the localities get a benefit from the employment and having the institution, but it's not exactly a taxable business like the shipyard would be, for example.
Exactly. So the defense makes it interesting. Overall, if we look at Newport News and Hampton, there are about 9,000 businesses. 355 have more than 50 employees. 8,700 have less. And the majority of those 8,700 actually are 10 or less employees. That in itself makes it really unique. And it makes it somewhat of a fragile economy because many of those are, like about 18% overall would be retail. A lot of hospitality and food service businesses. And those are all dependent on jobs that require higher paying jobs than what are available.
Right.
We're sort of at we don't have much job growth here. We have more job replacement, people come and go in the same positions. So that makes this a very unique community in that we focus along and helping with, in Hampton in particular, working with their EDA and Leonard Sledge, Director of Economic Development, working with him on retention and expansion. The economic development people can, they focus a lot on attraction and that
right.
type of thing. They do focus on retention, but when you have that many small business units, which are typical fragile entities, it's very difficult for a city any city, to be able to serve them appropriately. So we're working really hard on developing a new program that hopefully will be able to assist in finding out really what is it that the small business community doesn't know. One of the big challenges is succession planning. The days have sort of passed where my son would take over the business and
right. Like the 3 generations. And there's some of those, the Amory's and Patrick's Hardware and things like that. But they're not as long lived anymore. People don't grow up learning the business.
And that's a challenge because the options then become for the parent or the owner would be to sell the business, which can be a difficult task, not only in valuation of the business, but also finding a suitable purchaser, or you close the business down. When you do that, then obviously wealth departs,
right.
Jobs go away, those types of things. So we're really going to focus on how can we help this large small business community take a look at succession planning and how we can move it ahead. We have great resources with transitioning service members leaving the area. On the peninsula, there's 4,000 or 5,000 a year between Langley and Eustis and the Joint Base. How can we maybe develop a pipeline for them to get in, become acquainted and associated with some of our small businesses and maybe create some sustainability for them. So succession planning is a big deal. We're working on the creation of an innovative culture. When you're dependent, some people don't like this word, but I'm sort of not known for political correctness. The DOD is kind of like an entitlement.
Right.
People have had it for years and years, and that tends to stifle a creation of an innovative culture. We have all this intellectual capital here, whether it's actually at Langley Air Force Base, NASA Langley, JLab, the universities, but yet we're not converting intellectual property into commercial property.
Yeah, I think we all think we can, we just aren't sure how.
Everybody's hung up on entrepreneurship. We're not an entrepreneurial community. We're a small business community. And I think there's a big difference that people have to understand. Small businesses are great. They're really a foundation of our national economy. The small businesses here, the 8,700 employ 80,000 people. The 355 employ 110,000 people. So they really are, when you aggregate them, they're a large employer.
Yeah.
And so we really need to look at workforce preparation. What do they need? Are we missing skills? They tend to be missed in Department of Labor Studies. So when Thomas Nelson or the school divisions start looking at how do we create these pipelines for future careers, they kind of miss this whole marketplace because we think of the shipyard and we think of Centerra or Riverside or some of the larger businesses. But when you look at 80,000, that's a big deal.
Well, and that's what I notice about our business community is it really is, yes, you have some very big CEOs. You've got, Old Point, you've got the shipyard, Nolan Ferguson, but really a hospital. But after that, it's
a small business person.
A lot of small business
And
folks.
they have challenges. Their work ethic's totally different. They may go to work at 6 o'clock at night and leave at 11 o'clock at night. So they aren't available to engage in the community. The community really needs to come to them. And that's what we're looking at. So
that's what you've been really focusing on.
We're looking at how do we do that effectively? What is it that they need? We're looking in 4 or 5 areas through a study with CNU students as well as Harumfa, the Military and Federal Facilities Alliance, and also with the EDA, both EDAs, Newport News and Hampton, is we're going to look at how does education, K-12 education, or actually we should start at early childhood, early childhood to 12 education, impact them. How is the workforce that they receive, is it prepared? Do codes and regulations inhibit them from smooth business practices? Access to capital is always an issue.
I was going to mention that. I think I've heard from several of our entrepreneurs that it's not, it's not a capital-rich area where people, it's not your Silicon Valley where people are taking risks with their money.
The odd thing is, though, is we have all this intellectual capital here, probably more than any other community or most communities in the nation, and yet we don't seem to be able to transform it into commercial property. So the small business community is great. And those are people who they can be easily used like a plumber. A plumber goes into business, can be a great plumber, make a huge living, as we all know, or HVAC people, and they stay in that business. The entrepreneur is a little different. The entrepreneur takes an opportunity and makes it profitable, and then takes another opportunity and makes it profitable. And that may be product A this time, but something totally 180 degrees different the next time. So people here like to use the word entrepreneur for everything, and I think that maybe clouds what it's all about as far as going into business for yourself and moving ahead and what skills are necessary and that type of thing. So hopefully we're going to have to transform that asset-rich environment that we have into something that's actually productive, and we don't lose it to Delaware and Maryland and Pennsylvania and New York and that type of thing. So it's an interesting challenge. I've been doing this a long time, and this is a very unique opportunity.
Okay, so let me ask you one last question. Let me ask you to look out into the future, 10 years, 20 years. What, if you've done your job and the Chamber of Commerce has done its job and all of the regional entities that work together in the cities, what would the business economy look like? What will have changed?
I think there would be, I would hope, there would be a technology corridor extending from NASA Langley, NIA, down Saunders Road, if you will. And I realize there's homes there and that, but running to Newport News' Tech Center. Hopefully we would have the new ion collider, and that would become the catalyst for our future. And that would bring in high-paying jobs. That would help us rebuild our aging residential stock, the housing stock.
Yep.
I think that is the future. And I think we really all need to think about that. The other thing would be that we would have bus rapid transit from Williamsburg to the Naval Station through the third tube in the HRBT, and then have connectivity to the beach, to Norfolk, and be able to transfer rapidly back and forth without the stigma of what some people think public transportation is, but it would actually be moving people. I think in order to move people...
Yeah, because we're at the point where some of those areas are starting to clog, I think. And, you're not going to... You lose a lot of productivity if you're sitting in traffic. It's not worth your time.
You do. And I mean, my life is 25% on the south side, of which probably half of that is sitting in traffic.
And even if you're not sitting, you're leaving early enough to compensate for the fact that you might sit in traffic, that time is still wasted.
It's a real challenge.
I mean, you can get there and check your email, but it's not the same thing.
I think we need to move minds and move people and move goods in the next 10 years.
That sounds exciting, and I know we are all together working on that, and I think that's one of the places where Newport News and Hampton do intersect in terms of you can't compete and try to be separate. You have to create that entity, that research triangle kind of concept where you all work together and the growth in one area helps the growth in the other, and we become a regional tech center,
I think we can do that without losing our culture, our heritage, our boundaries.
Right.
People in Hampton work in Newport News and vice versa. So I think it's important that particularly those two cities take a look from 5,000 feet and not
and you
not
guys
from,
help us do that.
we try.
we have
try.
to do that too. Okay, well, thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I hope you have a great vision of what the Chamber does, how it can help you. Feel free to call them. And also where we're working toward together with the cities and with regional entities to build a stronger economy with more jobs. Thanks for watching.